Hi, everyone, guys. Thank you very much for joining in. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to wherever you are listening in. So, we're going to bring you another session on some of Sri Lanka's best kept secrets. Earlier, we did a similar webinar on the East Coast, where we looked at Vallawaya, Kalloya, and the Pothuil areas, including Kumara National Park, Kalloya National Park, birding sites, safari on a boat. So this time we're moving a bit northwards from Colombo. We're going towards the northwestern side of Sri Lanka, and we're looking at Kalpitiya, Wilpattu, and Kalabava, those three areas. So moving on, sorry. Why we selected the Northwest as similar to how we did the East was you've got experiences in those areas that cover wildlife, nature, culture, history, fantastic marine mammal watching, beaches, as well as wellness, and also water sports such as kite surfing, etc. Some of these locations are untouched, where you can enjoy fantastic, wildlife sightings, or whether you want pristine beaches, diving, snorkeling, um, even food and cuisine, seafood, and stuff like that in these areas. You've got the coast, as I said, and also it's not crowded as you would think of some areas. And as we're going through this webinar, I will introduce these places, and we'll have a look and see why the Northwest is also as good as the East Coast when it comes to wildlife and activities, and for people to visit. So the locations, if you look at the locations, you've got one on the coast, which is the Kalpitiya, the Putlam Lagoon and the Dutch Bay and that area. Then, of course, Wilpattu National Park, which is one of the largest national parks in the island. And also Kalabava, which is actually very close to some of the main hotspots of, say, Giriya, Abarana, Ritigala, even Anuradhapura. But it's a place that is a bit unknown when it comes to certain wildlife sightings. So moving on to Kalpitiya, as an accommodation option, this is a place where that I know, and I've come to enjoy it as well. We selected Kitesurfing Lanka. It did start off as a kitesurfing place, but now it's so much more. So the drive time from Colombo is about 3 hours 50 minutes. That's 160 kilometers. So Kalpitiya, Kitesurfing Lanka, for example, it's got a beachfront as well as its own very own lagoon front as well. They've got rooms on the beach, lagoon facing ones, and garden cabanas. You've got activities like stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, cycling. They've also got the bar and a few window activities, various games. It's not your usual hotel. It's a different place. It takes you get a connection with the staff. The staff are extremely friendly. They also enjoy what they do, and it's much more than a hotel, I would like to mention, when it comes to kite surfing Lanka. So this is the bridge that goes over the very own lagoon that they have. A few pictures of the rooms facing the beach. The one on the top left corner is their beach bungalow, which is on the beach. Then you've got the standard bungalow on the right on top. And on the left, you've got one of the garden view rooms. And of course, they've got these little places where you can just go and chill out during the night, dotted all over the property. They're also a property which is very conscious about the environment, and giving back to the environment. So mangroves, as I think everyone would know, are a key ecosystem in coastal areas, and it's a habitat for so many different species, and also for prevention of erosion and protection from things like tsunamis. So they've brought out this initiative where they've already done about 4,000 to 5,000 mangrove plants that have been planted around the area. They get the community involved. They also get the guests involved. So they are very conscious about that, and it's a very good experience there. Moving on to the experiences in Kalpitiya. Kalpitiya used to be a very sleepy fishing town and a fishing village. But now it's become, I mean, I think we can thank kite surfing for that, for bringing this place on the map as a tourist destination. Still, a lot of people associate Kalpitiya with kite surfing now and a little bit of the beach. It's still not as popular as I would say where you get down south and Arugam Bay and places like that. But it's an excellent area for so many different activities. We've got dolphin and whale watching. We've got kayaking, we do snorkeling, food-based experiences. Even Wilpattu National Park is actually 20 minutes by boat and another 30 minutes by jeep. So it's the park is also close by as well, and it's got one of our best reef habitats in the area, the Bar Reef Marine Protected Area. So moving on to dolphin and whale watching. So it's a bit seasonal because heading out to sea, it depends on the weather as well. So November, December, March, April is an excellent time for whale watching. We all associate whale watching with Mirissa down south, and also a little bit now in Trincomalee on the eastern side. But Kalpitiya also has become a great destination for whales, especially sperm whales, where you can see them in large numbers during this time period. The occasional blue whale also has been spotted. And the best of all, I think, is the killer whales or the orcas that also have been seen. I mean, they've been seen in Mirissa as well, but they've been spotted in Kalpitiya. And the best part about whale watching in Kalpitiya is you get your own personalized little boats. These are the fishermen who run dolphin and whale watching operations there. So you get your own personalized boats, and it's not as crowded as I would say Mirissa would be. Dolphins, of course, yes. Between November and March, they come in the super pods of thousands, maybe sometimes, where the spinner dolphin is the most common. Kite surfing also, it depends on wind, so it is seasonal. You do have to learn how to do this. You can't just pick up a kite and strap on a board and do it. It takes some time. You do lessons, which don't take too long. It's somewhat like riding a bicycle, I would say, because I did try it. You move the bar to the left, you go to the left, you move the bar to the right, you go to the right. But it's not as simple as that, but it is something like that. So summer seasons, May to October, and winter, mid-December, mid-March, during the windy times. So when it's windy, you go kite surfing. When it's not, there's so many other things to do as well. The kayaking is excellent. I mean, it's still water kayaking. You could also do a bit of sea kayaking if you've got the experience for that. But the still water kayaking is excellent because you go through the mangroves on one side. You can go right up to the edge of Wilpattu National Park on another side. So it's very hard to explain and show pictures about how good the kayaking is there, and you can see such a vast variety of bird life, and also in the mangroves, and maybe on occasions an elephant or two as well. As I said earlier, the Kalpitiya Reef is one of the largest, over 30 square kilometers in Sri Lanka, the Bar Reef Marine Protected Area. So the diving and snorkeling also is fantastic in Kalpitiya, which we don't really associate it with, but it is. And if you've got your PADI license, and it's not like wreck diving where you need a lot of experience. I mean, if you've got a PADI license, you've got your basic PADI license, you can go ahead. If you don't got your basic PADI license, there's plenty of dive schools there that can help you get that as well. So yeah, that's about Kalpitiya. Another little thing that I wanted to mention that it just popped into my mind was when it comes to bird watching, I think Kalpitiya is a bit, it is not recognized for that. But when it comes to pelagic birds, the ones that don't rarely come to land, that they spend their entire lives at sea, except maybe occasionally to nest. So Kalpitiya has been recognized as one area, sorry, where it is really good to see these pelagic birds. Right now, moving on to the next location, which is Wilpattu National Park. And I think we're coming into the favorite part of it's a favorite part of the island for me. And also it's going to be the best part of this webinar. So Wilpattu National Park is different. It's completely different from most of the national parks that you would come across in Sri Lanka. So accommodation, I've just mentioned a few names here. I've got a few slides as well. Accommodation wise, there's no big hotels in the vicinity. There's two entrances, one on Elvankulam, which is straight up north from Putlam, and the other entrance is from on the Anuradhapura Putlam road, the Hunuvilgama entrance. So in both areas, you don't get big hotels with 30, 40 room hotels, but you get these small boutique hotels, which are really nice, really calm, and most of them are very close to the park entrance as well. I've mentioned a few, Tamaravilla, Wilpattu Safari Camp, and Leopard Trails. Those are actually three tented glamping sites. So the drive time from Kalpitiya is about 1 hour 50 minutes, 96 kilometers, and from Colombo it's about 4 hours, about 187 kilometers. So this is Tamaravilla, one of the tented accommodations, elevated tented accommodations that they have there. It's a luxury boutique property. And Wilpattu Safari Camp, which is a bit more moving on into the more safari-oriented camp. These camps are all outside the national park boundaries itself, but they're very close to the national park. Wilpattu Safari Camp is about 5-6 minutes away from or maybe 10 minutes, and Tamaravilla about 15 minutes. And then you also get places like Ibis Wilpattu, which is more of a bungalow style accommodation. As I mentioned, if you want big, large groups going, then the closest accommodation, which has a lot of rooms, would be Anuradhapura. Experiences wise in the Wilpattu area, I think the national park is the main location. But you could also do bird watching outside the areas. There are lots of tanks and water holes that attract animals. You can go and watch them. Then there are these ancient sites, Pomparipu and Kudiramale, but that too you have to go from within the park to see. And also recently they opened up the Galvila Eco Park very close by as well. So moving on to the Wilpattu National Park itself, the experience in the park. So safaris, as I think a lot of you might know, in Sri Lanka we do full days and we do half days. But for Wilpattu, I would honestly not recommend half day safaris because you won't be able to cover half, not even half the park, because it's massive. It's one of the it's our largest national park in the island, and the terrains and everything is so different. It's so diverse from each different area, and the animals you see also change from area to area. So you get the best experience out of it if you spend the whole day in the park. Unlike other parks, unlike Yala, I would say it's not very difficult to spend the whole day in the park because you've got a lot of forested areas, a lot of areas which are cool, and you've got all these water bodies in the park that also bring about a coolness to it. You can go to one of the borders where you find the beach. I've got some pictures of those areas that I will show you. So it's not difficult spending the full day in the park, and you've got designated spots where you can stop and get off. And all these places that provide accommodation also provide these meal packs as well that you can take into the park. There's some places that come inside and set it up nicely with, they set up your breakfast with some tables. They do lunch as well like that. So the full day is what is actually recommended for Wilpattu National Park. So a full day would mean 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But 6 p.m. is the cutoff. You have to come out at that time. But the morning, you could go in between 6 a.m. and I would say 7:38 up to 8 o'clock is fine with Wilpattu because of the terrain, the habitat, and viewing animals is not exactly confined to the coolest hours of the day. Even during midday, you can see animals. Just a few facts. It's our largest national park, as I mentioned, over 1,300 square kilometers. So it's got this characteristic water bodies called Villus. That is what defines the park. And you've got, of course, the megafauna of Sri Lanka, the sloth bears, the elephants, and the leopard. It's also got quite a few historical sites that I'll mention a little bit down in the webinar. And of course, it's a Ramsar site. It's a Ramsar protected wetland habitat as well. So speaking about fauna of the park, I think this is what everyone would, basically go into Wilpattu to see. is the animals of the park. So sloth bears, as I mentioned, it's also one of the best places to see the barking deer. There's the picture in the center. On top of the leopard is a barking deer, and also for bird watching, like this Indian roller was just on the side of the road, sitting there, and of course eagles, and I think leopards are probably the main attraction of the park, and crocodiles. So speaking of leopards of Wilpattu, I know everyone associates Yala with leopards these days, but I think if you go back a bit in history of our national parks, and also maybe a little bit on the wildlife tourism side, Wilpattu National Park, I think, was, I would say, the OG leopard park in Sri Lanka. It was the original one where everyone, when you speak about Wilpattu, especially when we were young, it was the place where, people go to see leopards. Yala was more of an elephant park back then. But, with the conflict and the closing of the park for about 30 years, slowly, Yala started picking up that mantle of being the leopard park. But as you see here, I've got, these are all individual leopards that we've spotted in different areas of the park. And some of them, the black and white one was actually midday, where you wouldn't expect to, everyone thinks the leopards are a bit, they use the cooler hours of the day, but no, this is midday. Some of them in the morning, some of them in the evening. So it's basically a full day park. I mean, you would see animals at different times of the day. You don't have to worry too much about that. Well, just to make it a bit interesting, this is one leopard who was a bit famous in the park. She was named Cleopatra, but everyone calls her Cleo for short. And she's been kind of one of the stars of the park, and I've seen her since she was a little cub, and she's grown up now. And I've got a video of her just walking towards us. Sorry for the blur sometimes, because uh, it was pretty close, and it was exciting. And the best part is there's no one else. It was just me who was here, just me and in our jeep. It was just me, so there was no one else around. And she wasn't afraid. She just came right up to us. Maybe she recognized us after seeing her for so many times. She just gave us a little stare, and she moved on. And now she has two cubs. These are her two cubs, which is a nice story to tell, because we've seen her since she was a young cub, and then she's grown up all through the years, and now she's got two cubs who are, I mean, this was taken some time ago, so I think the cubs are still together with the mom, but not for very long. They'll move on, I think, about 2 years of age is when they move on. So this is another, she's also a bit fearless. She would just approach us, and the best thing is, when you're by yourself, the animal is also comfortable with its natural behavior. I know sometimes in Yala you don't get to see this much. She's marking her territory. She's checking out scents for the male leopards that have passed on. So if you have these masses and masses of people roaming all around, and vehicles moving back, moving forward, it's going to disrupt their natural behavior. But here we're just by ourselves, and we just stopped, and she just went about her business as if we were not even there. And as you can see, she's very, very close by. So it was a 300 millimeter lens that I used. So you can, if you know that the lens distances, you would know that she's very, very close by. So the next exciting animal that you see in the park is sloth bears. They're not very easy to see. They tend to be shy. So the best times to see them would be maybe after a shower, or even during a shower. If you look at the right-hand top picture, it's pouring rain, but the bear's out there. He's enjoying himself, looking for grubs, insects, things to eat. So the best time to see bears is just after a rain or during the rain. And the other season is from about May, June, July, probably towards up to August, where one of the dominant tree species in the park, it's called palu, or ironwood. It gives you a berry, a yellow berry when it's ripe, and it's very sweet. And the sloth bears absolutely love it. So they would just gorge themselves on it. And sometimes, I think, just so much sugar. They would be on a sugar rush. They look like they're high, and they look very, very clumsy when that happens. So, and they climb trees and they just go eat and eat and eat and eat. And sometimes, I mean, I've seen the bear on the top left corner. Just after this picture was taken, he fell down. He just fell off the tree, and like it was nothing. He just stood back up, brushed himself off, and started eating what was on the ground. So the park is also an excellent place to see sloth bears. Small video clip of one just on the middle. Again, as I said, when the animal's not disrupted by masses of tourists and masses of jeeps, everyone trying to get a view moving around, you get to observe their natural behavior, what they're actually doing, not trying to escape or not trying to avoid. So this bear is clearly sniffing for food, and he's not bothered that we're there because it's just one jeep. We stopped in a distance, and he's just clearly enjoying himself, and we enjoyed the sighting as well. And of course, yes, as a national park, it's not well known for its elephant population. But yes, the park does have elephants. So this is a tusker we found on the middle of the road. Again, we're by ourselves. There's no one. So we got an uninterrupted, unhindered view. So to see elephants, the best part is you need to go towards the western border of the park. That area is called Pomparippu Kudiramale. It's easier accessible from the Yeluvankulam entrance, which is north of Putla. So that area is where you get more open plains and more grasslands in the park. So that's why the elephant concentration there is a bit higher than within the park. Where you do see elephants within the park as well, but a better chance you get when you go to the western border, as I said. Another fantastic place to see eagle. This is a changeable hawk eagle, just on a branch on the ground with a lovely background of green, just looking for its prey. Not only changeable hawk eagles, but serpent eagles, even owls, brown fish owls. It's a really good place to see those animals, and it's very good for birding as well. During the migration season, you do get a few of the waders and things like that coming down as well. So it's an excellent place for birding. Overall, the wildlife experience in Wilpattu, I would say, is far superior to anything that you would get in the other parks. And it's only accessible by four-wheel drive jeeps. So you don't have a lot of jeeps as well in the area. And I would like to mention that the drivers also are, very, very well disciplined. There's no rushing, there's no speeding or anything like that. So this park is absolutely fantastic for wildlife. But as I said earlier, you got to remember it's massive. It's a massive park. There's so much to see. So doing a half day might not be the best. If you're a real wildlife enthusiast, I think the full day is always recommended. But if you just want to get a glimpse of the park and have a feel for it, then half day is quite all right. But you just got to remember you won't be able to access a lot of areas of the park. So as I was saying, Wilpattu is characterized by these water bodies called Villus. They are natural depressions in the ground that hold rainwater. Some of them do dry up during the dry season, completely bone dry, but some of them hold water throughout the year. Some of them are, salt water, some of them are fresh water. Be surprised that some of the Villus that are closer to the sea have more fresh water than the ones that are further inland. So it's very surprising. There's not enough research done to exactly pinpoint as to why that is, and how these formations came across. And I would like to mention that as Sri Lanka, all our big water bodies or lakes or tanks that we have are all man-made. We do have an excellent system, riverine system that goes throughout the country, but Wilpattu is only one of the only places where you find these natural Villus or natural lakes in the island. So this is an aerial view of what a Villu what we would like to characterize a willow would look like. It's a basin shape with what, a sandbank around them, and then grass, and then you get the water. I would like to mention that using drones inside the park is not allowed. This was taken during a project, a research project that was done on the willows. This is another larger willow. As you can see in the distance, you see these other clearings that are all willows. So there's loads of willows. There's about 50, maybe about 40 to 50 willows in the park. Some of them are really small, so they just look like a pond. And moving on to away from the fauna, so Wilpattu also has this history that goes back thousands of years. It goes back to the Pliocene and the Miocene era as well. So when you come to the western border, this is called Kudiramale Point or Horse Point, where you find these sea cliffs, and also the sand on the beaches in that area are all red. Like it's formed from the coral formations that were underwater a long time ago, but now they've come up to land. And if anyone has heard of Prince Vijaya, who's supposedly the founder of the Sinhalese race, who came from India, landed on these shores, and we call it Tambapani, or copper colored sand. So as you can see in this picture, you see the dark red area. That is actually, you can see like coral formations, which are thousands and thousands of years old, or billions of years old. That used to be seabed, but now with the drop in the sea levels, they've risen up. And just next to it, you also get an area where you get all the. I mean, you know that it's sea because there's fossils that you find of these small sea creatures like snails and things like that you find in that area. And as I said, the sand dunes, all red in color, this area. So this is one of the areas that you can actually go and stop and get down, and you can walk around and have a look. And yeah, this is an interesting lizard that you get in the area called the fan-throated lizard. This one's actually an endemic species that you find in the Wilpattu and that area. As well as historic sites. This area it's been civilization before, going back 900 BC to that time. So there's been civilizations living here, and you can see that. These areas are not accessible now because they're deep inside the park. So you get ruins of old temples. There is this rock inscription that speaks of a king who also speaks about a little bit about taxation, which is kind of relevant to what's going in Sri Lanka these days. So there's been taxation since back in the day, and the burial urns that in the grave sites. I've found over 1,200 grave sites in the area, which contain these burial urns where people were cremated and then buried in these clay urns, which had been plastered. In some of them been plastered in white, and you find these in the area inside the park in these areas. Hopefully someday the archaeology department and the wildlife department will work together and make sure that these are preserved, and also make sure that people can go and visit them, which I think is one way that you can ensure that these areas and sites are preserved if you have visitation. Otherwise, sorry, it's just going to go into the jungle, which is happening right now. So hopefully, in the future, the wildlife department and the archaeology department will get together and make sure that everyone can go and see these and experience this history that a lot of people, it's not heard of that much. Right. So that's about Wilpattu, and now we're moving on to another. It's a fascinating place. It's called Kalaweva National Park, and it's accessible from Sigiriya, Dambulla, Habarana, from all those areas. Even Wilpattu, you can access it. So the drive time from Wilpattu is about 2 hours. It's 100 kilometers to Dambulla, and then if you're going directly to the park from Wilpattu, it's 1 hour 45 minutes. But you can access it from the hotels around Sigiriya, Dambulla, and Habarana, which are the popular places. If you're going from Colombo directly, you're looking at about 3 hours and 20 minutes. So just to give you an idea where the location is, it's very close to Anuradhapura, Dambulla, that area on the island. So it was very recently declared a national park. So it's on the banks of the Kalavav and the Balanuvav. Um, and you get this gathering of elephants that happens here as well. When the water levels recede in the tank, the lush grass comes out. So the elephants come to eat that and also drink water during the dry seasons. Um, it's also not much known to a lot of people that this happens. A lot of locals I know do visit Kalavav National Park, and it could be an alternative to going to Minneria and Kaudul and Eco Park, which are the more popular ones, but which can get crowded. And it's not always the best experience when you're seeing a lot of other jeeps as well as you're seeing the number of elephants that you're seeing. So the main attraction in Kalavav is its elephants, and of course, maybe not as much as the Minneria gathering, but there is quite a congregation. Some days you might be able to see, over 100, 200 elephants roaming on the plains, eating the grass. As you can see, this was quite a big herd that we saw in the park. So, what kind of distinguishes Kalavav from the other places is the number of tuskers you see. It's a strange phenomenon because you've got all these massive bull elephants, tuskers, all within the same area. Normally, you visit parks, you would see maybe one tusker in one area, unless they're jostling for females. They come in from different areas, but here it's different. You see them all together, and you see them with little babies, and you see them intermingling in the herds. Um, and it's the little herds, the little elephants. It's nice, and as you can see, these tuskers were all taken on the same day in the same area. They're all just walking around together, eating, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So this particular trip, we saw 9 tuskers in the same area. We didn't have to drive too much. We just drive into one particular area. We waited for the elephant herds to move in, come closer to the water. Um, so they were feeding, moving towards the water. Then they go to the water, drink water, and then they come back while they're feeding. So it's very interesting. So you've got all these little tuskers. You've got the old ones, all in this same area, and it's fascinating. It's hard to explain in words. And again, it's not crowded, so you're not disturbing the animals. They're in their own habitat. They're going about their business, their natural behavior. You can see, but sadly, the what's happening these days with both Minneria and Kalavav is water is being released into the tanks from the rivers to keep for agricultural purposes. So um, there might be a time where it'll be very hard to see these elephants because they'll be retreating back into the jungle because if they keep the tanks full throughout the year, then they won't have this lush grass on the banks of the tanks for them to come and eat. So hopefully that won't happen, and then we will be able to see these animals for many more years to come. And as you know, in Sri Lanka, seeing a tusker is not an easy thing. I think it's less than 5% of male elephants in Sri Lanka that have tusks, unlike in Africa, where like the African elephant, where both male and female elephants do have tusks. But with the Asian elephant, it's just the male, and in Sri Lanka, I think it's less than 5%. So moving on, I've got somewhat of a sample itinerary that this area you could cover in this area. So you could start off obviously in Kalpitiya, and you go there. You could, there's yoga, there's spas, you can have a dinner on the beach and just enjoy the hotel on that day. The next morning, I mean, whale watching and dolphin watching is always done in the morning. So you head off, you know, going going to see whales or dolphins if the season's right. If not, get on a kayak, go kayaking. In the evening, you plant some mangroves, which helps the environment. You could use the next day to go, boat trip to Dutch Bay, do some snorkeling in the Bar Reef. If you got a paddy license, you could go diving. If you want, then you move on to Wilpattu. As I said, I've mentioned that you could do an evening safari, do a half day, but you could also do this night walk that you do in the paddy fields and in the chainers, looking for nocturnal animals like rusty spotted cats or fishing cats or jungle cats. And then the next day, of course, yeah, you have to do a full day in Wilpattu to cover all the areas. The next day, again, full day, and you could go to see the historic sites as well in the park. Next day morning, it's easy to do a bird watching trek, drive towards Dambulla, and in the evening, go and see Kalawava. I mean, Kalawava evening, morning, both you could do Kalawava. It doesn't matter. But what we generally do is, we've got the wildlife guys there. Just give them a ring and ask them where the elephants are, and they'll tell you what time you need to come. Can you go on and see the elephants? Uh, Actually, I forgot to mention Kalawava. Even when it's raining and the tank is full, there is a way to go and see elephants by boat. It's not like how you do it in the Senaraka Samudra in Galway, where the wildlife department does it. But there are a few villages who do it. It's not the most health and safety conscious, but they do. The wildlife does provide uh, safety jackets, but the boats are, those little dingy fishing boats that but that's a different experience. But it's a hit or miss, because the water levels have to be perfect and you can't predict that. So one day you might go and you find, oh, the water levels are high, you need to go in a boat. So that's why we always call ahead and find out with Kalava. But once you go there, it's absolutely fantastic. It's nothing like you've experienced before with an elephant safari in Sri Lanka. So I think I've taken about most of the time that I've been given to do the presentation. Just a small, map of the route that we might take. So I'm going to stop there, and if anyone's got questions, you could put it in the chat, or you could lift your hand up, give you some time to speak. You can let me know. Anyone wants to know anything? You always put it. Len, Len, you're on mute, but you can speak.
Okay, Chandika, thank you very much. Just one question. The whales that you see around the Kalpitiya area, are these the same? Can you hear me?
Sorry, can't hear you.
Hang on a second.
Sorry, Len, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Len's good. Len, full day safari to Wilpattu, the Jeep, it depends. So you have the Jeep cost, which is, they've increased the cost now, which is about 20,000 rupees, I think, a full day. Plus the wildlife ticket, which is 18 USD. It's similar to the other parks, but the cost of the full day safari depends on the package as well, whether you're having meals or things like that as well. I hope that answers your question. But you could always get in touch with us, and we can, if you want the full day safari to be arranged, we can do that for you. If not, we could give you the costs as well. So you can always get in touch with us. My email address is there on. Sorry, Len, I know your hand is up, but
yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. I don't know. No.
All right, I can hear you now, Len.
You can hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I wasn't on mute, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Just one question, Chandika. Thank you very much, by the way. That was an excellent presentation. But
thank you,
the whales that come down Kalpitiya, I think this is the case, but can you just confirm? These whales, are they the ones that go around down the south coast to Marissa, and then travel up the east and finish up broadly around the Trincomalee area?
Len, I think they don't finish up on the east because the deep water channel is not there for them to cross through the port.
Where do they go? So where do they go after Kalpitiya? I know they go down south, and I know that the blue whales are known to breed in the Trincomalee area. So
that, Len, I think that is different population to what you get on this side. I'm not 100% sure. I think we'll have to check with someone like Asha on that. But the sperm whales that you do see in Kalpitiya, you don't see the same numbers down in Mirissa. But again, then you see those same numbers on the other side on the east coast. So I think they follow a different path where I think they avoid a bit of Mirissa. They go, but they don't go through past the Jaffna Peninsula. They don't go between Sri Lanka and India. They don't do that because the water's not deep enough in that channel there now.
Yeah, no, okay. I thought they came across from Africa in that sort of way, but thank you. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Ed. Anyone else? If anyone's got questions, maybe about 2 minutes, but you could always contact us. You could always let us know what you want to know about, not only this area, but anything related to wildlife in Sri Lanka and wildlife tourism in Sri Lanka. You could always go ahead and speak to us. I think I'm not going to take any more of your time. The email address is there, so you can always contact us and let us know what you think. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending, taking your time. I hope this was helpful. We will be having more of these series. We're hoping to try and do one every month on different areas of Sri Lanka. So hopefully, I think, fingers crossed, the next one will be walking tours. So thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll see you at the next one. Thank you so much. And goodbye until next time.